my biggest pet peeves in this job is when an officer's nose is buried so far into their phone that they're oblivious to everything else going on around them. That's not to say that phones don't provide a tremendous advantage for us in the field, but I believe there is a fine line between being respectful and cognizant of what's going on around you and also using your phone to your advantage while you're in the field. Today we're going to go over 5 apps that I use on a day-to-day basis in my job. I'm not saying that these are the 5 best apps out there for law enforcement and that you absolutely must own these and no other apps. I'm just saying that these are the 5 that I most consistently use and give me the most advantage out in the field. Now, I use a variety of apps to give me advantage in doing my job, probably 15 to 20 in total, but these are the 5 that I most consistently turn to, probably on a nightly basis, if not at least a multiple time a week basis. I also have an Apple Watch that I use, and I won't get into specifically how I use that. That might be another whole other segment in of itself, but there are some apps on the Apple Watch as well that really have helped me convenience-wise get the job done. Things such as going into a house and forgetting my phone. Well, it doesn't so much matter now that I have this watch, or taking notes down when I don't have my phone or a piece of paper with me when it's safe. Well, my watch definitely helps with that. Reminders at work, administrative tasks. It's definitely helped me a ton in my job. But back to the apps, the 5 that I'm consistently turning to on a nightly basis are Google Drive, Zello, Ohio Cop, Mobile Patrol, and Waze. And I'll explain why here in a second. So the first app I use is an app called Zello. And Zello is basically a two-way communication app where it's a push-to-talk like the old Nextels were. You can put a group of people on Zello, or you can just talk to one other person. You can build contacts just as you would in your phone. The cool thing about Zello is if you work on a shift or you work in a unit where there's a group of people, you can create your own contact list. So there'll be several users that are approved by the list creator. And when those users are approved, they can all hear the same messages. So it's basically a talk around on a digital channel that you'd find in your vehicle radio, only this is contained to an app. We find it useful because not every time do you want to clog up the radio with useless traffic, or you may just want to have a more free, open line of communication with the other officers on your shift to try to get something done. Zello is a free app, so that's the best feature. And as soon as you add a username, it's simple push to talk. You get a chirping noise when you push the digital button on the app. It'll alert the person that they are being contacted and they can respond. And like I said, several people or several users can listen in on the conversation. So that's Zello. The second app I use is called Ohio Cop. And I believe there are several variations of this. I don't know what specific states have their own variation of this. I know there's a US Cop, and the same company, I believe it's copsapps.net, also provide other law enforcement apps like GPS coordination, things like that. But Ohio Cop, for those of us in Ohio, it's really nice because you can go in there and it's a quick reference guide. Basically, you can see all your drug schedules in one place. You can see all the ORC items that you need in one place. You can actually look up case law. So if you're on a traffic stop and you're kind of pumping the brakes a little bit and slowing things down, just to try to remember, am I able to do this way in this situation or not? It actually has a case law locator that's pretty useful, where you just kind of omit certain items or certain scenarios that you're on and kind of get down to one scenario that fits a case law, and you can read to see whether or not under cases in our district or cases in our court, cases in our state, allow us to do certain things. It also has some very, very brief training articles within the app that are nice to read on your lunch or if you have a break or whatever. But essentially, this app is self-contained to quick reference. I don't know what the free version of this app contains. However, the paid version, which is $4.99, contains all the things I just mentioned, and I've never had to pay for a further update. It does update pretty regularly. I also follow several law articles that are sent to me in email with case updates or court decisions, appellate decisions, and those all are transferred to Ohio Cop pretty quickly. The third app I use, I'm sure everyone's familiar with, it's Waze. It kind of has a bad taste in its mouth for law enforcement because people are deathly scared that it does mark where law enforcement is sitting or where they are kind of static at one point in time. Mostly that has to do with the highway patrol. I understand in major metropolitan areas, if there's a beat officer that's on a street corner or assigned to a certain corner or storefront, that could be a problem. However, for us, it can also be utilized to our advantage. So the app's out there, it's going to exist. There's nothing that we can really do about that except for be cognizant of where we are. Don't have our nose buried in our phones or buried in something else to where we're not going to notice somebody walk up to our car. With that being said, the app itself, for people that don't have GPS on their mobile data terminal or MDT or computer in their vehicle, this is something that they could quickly throw up on their iPad or throw up on their phone, get a little holder for it in a car vent or a dash mount, and now you have GPS. And in fact, I prefer this over MDT GPSing simply because in the way that I use it, I can just hit the audio tab on Waze, and if we get a hot call, say a shooting or an assault in progress or something like that goes out, I can just hit the audio tab and speak to where I want to go. So if I get dispatched to 123 East Main Street, yet I'm all the way on the other side of the city, or if it's one of those streets that we all should know but we don't because we're in a little bit larger of an agency where some of the streets are kind of, we've been there before but we don't quite remember how to get there. If it's that situation, I can just hit the little audio tab and speak to where I want to go, confirm it, and it just sends me there. I'm not out on the road every single night like my officers are, so I tend to forget where I'm at if I'm in a part of the city that we don't visit that often. So if I'm behind a car and all of a sudden the driver bails and now I'm in a foot pursuit, instead of trying to look around for a landmark or know exactly what street I'm on, you shouldn't rely on it. But you do have the advantage of having that popped up in 3D perspective, giving you the name of the street and the closest cross street that you're on. So I can glance at that and get a quick idea where I'm at and get orientated so I can start putting my information out on my microphone for that foot pursuit. So I love Waze. I use that every single time I'm in a car. And it's kind of fun to sit on the side of the road and mark that you're there as a police officer and message people as they try to tell other people that you're there. It's kind of a fun thing to do. Mobile Patrol is also a great app for me administratively and quite honestly on the street because it is an app that tracks all the recent bookings at a law enforcement facility for jailing individuals. So in our county, Fairfield County, if I think I see somebody on the street that may have a warrant, but I don't quite remember if the person that I'm thinking of is in jail or not, and if I have time, I can quickly get on Mobile Patrol, check the local jail roster without having to get on the horn and call them and wait if they're busy and things like that. I can get on Mobile Patrol, check the name. If they're not in jail, and I'm fairly confident that was the individual I just saw, it's just one extra step that kind of helps me out in my job. Also, if I'm trying to deal with a warrant administratively while at headquarters, if someone has a question for me, I'm trying to figure out when someone was booked, how long they've been in jail, or a family member's calling in and asking questions. Honestly, sometimes I'll just pop on the app and I'll check to see what they're arrested for and things like that. Now, I would not rely on it for bond amounts and formal legal proceedings. You know, if you're in that position that has to make those decisions, like bonding someone out and things like that. However, as a quick reference, as something to kind of shoot to and see if someone's in jail, if they've been in jail recently, or maybe someone's given you a story on the street saying they were in jail at the time of the crime that you're investigating, might be a great app to use, might be a great tool to use to try to produce information to help you within your job as it relates to that person being jailed. The last app I use is going to depend quite a bit on agency policies and things like that. It's Google Drive. Now, you can use it in several ways. At the very minimum, if you have common city codes or common state codes or just common documents that you use within your job, you can upload them to Google Drive, put the app on your phone, and immediately go out there anywhere you are and fetch that information while you're on a call. So if you have certain summons language that you need to write on a summons, you can open up Google Drive, copy that language either through your MDT or your phone, and paste that summons language to whatever affidavit you're writing. So it's great for capturing and storing files that you commonly use on a day-to-day basis within your job. So a lot of the things that you're using can go to that Google Drive, and it's like carrying your desktop at work everywhere with you. All right, I briefly talked about how I use my watch, my Apple Watch. I don't know how well this is going to come up in focus on the camera. I kept leaving my cell phone in my gear bag when I was going into calls, and so when I'd have to call in and update headquarters on something, or somebody had a phone call for me while I was on that call, I didn't have my phone. So I was trying to figure out ways to solve that. I came up with getting an Apple Watch, and although I definitely don't use it to its max potential, I definitely use it every night. You can get texts on this. You can send text relatively easily on this. This is the Series 3, so if you need to make a call while you're in a house or while you're on a scene, you can make a call right here from your watch. It does look kind of silly talking into your watch, but so long as your personality is strong enough to take some of that ribbing, that's totally fine. But I use the heck out of this watch. One of the best features, however, for this watch is, for me personally, I'm always forgetting things. I always need reminders. So you can talk right into this watch and remind yourself to do something. So if your shift is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and 5 different officers have come up to you for time off requests, and there's no way that you're going to remember each individual specific circumstance on those requests, you can just remind yourself, speak into your watch, and have a reminder set for yourself for, say, 6 a.m. to make sure you get all of those tasks done prior to the completion of your shift. Or if you're out shagging calls in a vehicle and your supervisor has asked you to do something specific and you're busy taking calls, but you know you have to get that job done as well, you can talk right into the watch, have it set a reminder for you for 2 hours from whenever you put the reminder in, and it'll ring and it'll let you know to do that task. Again, I can't do a complete review of it because that would be an entire other video, but it's held up just fine. I have no screen protector on it. I've used the same rubber band forever on this watch, and it's not broke. It hasn't scratched. I don't think there's many scratches on it anyway. And it's just a nice piece of equipment to use within the job to communicate. All right, that does it for apps used in law enforcement. Like I said, this is not all encompassing. These are not the 5 best apps ever for law enforcement. I believe that list constantly changes, and there's apps moving ahead of other apps. But these are the 5 I most use, and the main point of this video is to put them out there. Maybe somebody searching this topic out on YouTube has not heard of one of these apps or has not utilized one of these apps in the way that I'm utilizing it. So maybe it benefits somebody, and that's the main goal for everything.